skills that Jackson does. But, I mean, what are your thoughts heading into that game? The Week 9 matchup that we got coming, Baltimore and New England Sunday Night Football.
It should be a pretty interesting game. Obviously, it's a primetime game. So
I think it'll be the first time that their defense is really put to the test. I mean, obviously, we've seen New England's defense be historic through these first 8 games. But, if there's anybody that you can trust with manning a defense, it's Belichick and company. So I'm not going to be shocked if they come out and they play a very close game and still wind up winning it. So with that, we got, a treat. Ron Swoboda coming onto the line.
all right. Well, we do indeed have a treat, and we want to welcome Ron Swoboda to the Sports Exchange. Ron, thank you for being on the program. We appreciate you.
Always a pleasure. How you guys doing?
I'm doing great. Well, you know what? I can't be more than delighted to have you on the program. So with that said, Ron, how are you feeling? I know that you had some health issues. You feeling a lot better now?
Yeah, I had a triple bypass. I was lucky that it all started with a low heartbeat incident, and they put a triple. I know the difference between a triple bogey and a triple bypass now, and I'll tell you which one I prefer. But they got a good fix on me. My workouts are going great. I feel like I bought some time.
Well, good. No, maybe we can get some people to buy some memoirs. How's that sound? Okay, Ron?
I've had so darn much fun doing this book that I wrote about 1969 and kind of giving my side of the story and from the time that was pretty amazing in America, on Earth, really, what was going on with the Vietnam War and money in the system, an upside-down world, identity politics. We're putting a man on the moon, Woodstock, and probably the least predictable thing in all of that in 1969 was this little team in New York, the Mets, winning a World Series, and, coming right off the tail end of the Washington Nationals winning theirs last night in 7 games where the home team lost every game. Thinking 50 years back to what we went through with the New York Mets and how unpredictable that was. Look at what happened in this World Series. So it's pretty amazing time and good timing in all, I would say.
Ron, it's kind of the Louis Adio-Weiss here. I'm Scott's co-host on this show, and it's interesting. I was thinking about this today. Obviously I wasn't around for the '69 series, and getting to witness the guys like you had on that pitching staff, like a young Nolan Ryan, obviously Seaver and Jerry Koosman. But it's funny, the Astros, their second World Series in the last 3 seasons, and they lost it. They won one, and you guys kind of did what the Nationals did last night. If there's one parallel I can draw, is that those great Oriole teams in the early inception of Earl Weaver's tenure managing that club, they only managed to win 1 World Series, and you prevented them with that loss in 5 games in '69 from capturing that second title that I believe they won in 70 or 71.
Yeah, they probably couldn't have been happier when the Mets came out of the National League in 1969, and we surprised them a little bit. And the fact that I grew up in Baltimore and that was the team I followed, and Brooks Robinson was easily one of my favorite players. And what happens, I make the best play of my life off of Brooks Robinson in Game 4 of the '69 World Series. So a lot of circles got completed. But, yeah, for so many reasons, most of them about Tom Seaver and Jerry Koosman and a great pitching staff, we didn't have to score as many runs. But it did seem like what we managed to do in '69, beating the Orioles, we put some fire under them, and they came out and won it the next year.
And it's kind of funny. When I think of that team, I think of a lot of teams who you never really thought would win it. You can think about, obviously, this year's Nationals, the 2003 Florida Marlins, which they referred to at the time, the 1914 Boston Braves, and you guys. What was it? I mean, we saw with the Nationals this postseason, obviously, the chemistry that they had from mid-May on, and that carried through October, kind of festered.
Well, they were really, it seems to me, they had a horrible start. the Nationals this year, they were the comeback kids. I mean, they were going nowhere. They looked like a very gettable team, and then all of a sudden some pieces started coming together. And, they got on a roll, and I got to believe they surprised themselves. And I wouldn't have picked them to win the National League East. I wouldn't have picked them to win the National League. I wouldn't have picked them to win the World Series. I kind of thought Houston would figure out a way to do it, and the fact that Houston had 4 games at home seemed to me it should have played into their favor, but it didn't. That's what's so beautiful about it. 7 games, and you could have never figured that that the road team wins every game in a 7-game World Series, first time in the history of a thing called the World Series. Man, that's amazing stuff.
Ron, what I think was amazing was back when you guys won 38 of your last 50 games. To be able,
that was pretty. That's a pretty hot little streak we got on, and it came at the right time because we were kind of chasing the Cubs the whole year. Once we got rolling, once we had vaulted into some sort of relevance in the National League East. We figured the Cubs were the team we had to beat, and we played some tough games with them, and we couldn't catch them. And this is going into the month of August, and they had a lead at one point in August up to 10 games and on us, and I'm thinking, we're playing pretty good baseball, and I'm thinking, here we're gonna gain a level of respectability and end up as the pumpkin in somebody else's Cinderella story, because it looked like the Cubs until the fourth week in August where they hit the skids. And that's when we were on that run that you talked about. And we blew by them in about 10 days, 2 weeks. We went by them like somebody sitting on the side of the road changing a tire, and we never looked back.
All right, so Ron, tell me, 1969, you hit that grand slam against the Pittsburgh Pirates at 5-2. When you said that was the first time the Mets were in first place. Describe what that feeling was like for you to hit that grand slam.
Well, I mean, I had an awful year. I struggled to be of some use and couldn't manage it, and it really was in like the last 6 weeks of the season where I got to play, and it was a result of Cleon Jones was injured, and he got yanked out of a ball game in Shea Stadium when the Houston Astros, who we struggled with all year long, they beat us 10 games in a row, the only team we couldn't beat. And they beat us up in a doubleheader in the second game. Cleon Jones went after a ball in left field, and Hodges, I think, was trying to make a point. We were playing bad baseball. Nobody looked like they minded it too much. And when Cleon didn't really get after a ball down the left field line, Hodges took a slow walk out there and took him out of the game. Now, Cleon was not a guy that anybody would accuse of slacking. He was a hustler. He was a warrior. He was the guy, man. He was in the batting race that year. He almost won a batting title, and so we needed Cleon Jones's offense. But he had hurt his leg, and Hodges went out there for 2 things. He took Cleon out. He wanted to fire the team up, and it looked like Cleon didn't get after the ball very well, but he was injured. Hodges made it play like Cleon. If you're not ready to play out there, if you're not ready to give it your all, you got to come out of the game. I went into the game, and something started happening for me offensively, and we went through Pittsburgh, and of course, I bopped a grand slam. I only hit 2 of them in my life. I in my major league career, and that. that was the second one. So, you know, I didn't think we were, you know, I didn't think we were ready to roll quite the way we did. And you know, that also was, there were two games against Pittsburgh where Jerry Kuzman and Don Cardwell pitching in both two ends of a doubleheader. They both drove in a run, and we beat them 1-0, where the pitchers drove in the only run. So, you know, me hitting a grand slam was a long way from the most outrageous thing that happened against Pittsburgh that year, and it was going to be that kind of season.
You talked about the name Rocky. You mentioned something about less reliable fielding. Why don't you go ahead and elaborate what you meant by that?
I think they, you know, my nickname came from me being kind of a hard-headed guy. I was tough to get the message through to sometimes. You know, I could be a little thick. You know, I wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer, and you know, what I believed in, and you know, sometimes people thought that you know, it might have had something to do with the you know, the hard-headed nature that I brought to the game.
Okay. You talked about during a TV interview that you loved hitting fastballs, that you started seeing more breaking balls. You only hit 4 more the rest of the season, 19. And I know about your 1965, the All-Star, Topps All-Star rookie team. Why don't you elaborate on that?
1965, I hit 15 home runs in the first half of the season playing for Casey Stengel, and never hit 15 in any year after that. I had 4 home runs in the second half. They started throwing a few more sliders, and I didn't handle them well. And I think it was a long season. I think they learned me, and I didn't adjust like I needed to, and so hacking away at getting, you know, more fastballs early in the season. Pitchers talk, and they talk to one another, and I think the word got around. Maybe he needs a few more breaking balls, and that's what I saw more of in the second half of the season. But you know, I still felt like, what a privilege. I had the best run I ever had as a professional athlete playing for Casey Stengel. He only made it through a little more than half of that season before he broke his hip, and they retired him. But I tell you what, I got to play for the guy, and that's a legend walking around on his own 2 feet.
Hey, I'll just add a little comment to that. All it took for you guys really was a black cat in Chicago, right? With Ron Santo on the on-deck circle, right?
You know, Don Clendenin, bless his soul, he wrote in his book that we had trained that cat with like a trail of tuna fish or something. And, of course, that isn't what happened. That cat came out of underneath the stands, and he was completely freaked. And you know, the irony that it happens in these tough series we're playing against the Cubs, where games are breaking on one little play here, one little piece of bad luck there, and what happens? A black cat comes bolting out from under the stands at Shea Stadium and runs back and forth in front of the Cubs dugout on the third base side. I mean, it looked like somebody trained him, but that's not what happened. It was incredible. I mean, when I saw that, I could just imagine DeRocher over there saying, "What in the world's going to happen next?"
All right, so you know, your first baseman in 1967. I know then you shifted to right field, and then in '67, your offensive numbers were actually pretty good. Well, I think you had 281 with 13 home runs, 53 RBIs, and then
not bad. No, not bad.
Right, not bad at all.
I had you know, the other thing people don't think about, that was my best year average-wise, the year before Gil Hodges showed up, but I had 5 bunt base hits.
That's funny.
You know, I had 5 bunt base hits. That you add up the